Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast brought to you by the Draft Professors. Joined with Marcus and Jake. Good morning, guys. It's Sunday morning. It's good to see both of you. Marcus, it's early on the West Coast, but I should say in the Western time zone. But how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just getting up, make sure I was getting all these guys done. Just being prepared, and yeah, man. I'm up usually pretty early all the time, anyways, so it works out. But yeah, I'm ready to go though. I'm ready to go. It kind of wakes me up to do this a little bit too, so it kind of gets me going a little bit.
I know the feeling. So, Jake, what is your board looking like right now? Like, how many players are on it, and just kind of how is this scouting going?
It's going well. I've done, I would say, a lot more on the offensive side than the defensive side to this point. Probably about 75 to 80, I think, is somewhere in there. I think it's 78's the number that I'm fully moving forward with as a group. I added Caleb Lomu to the watch sheet because everybody was chatting about that in the chat yesterday on the Twitter timeline about him being on the senior day photo. So that was a big okay, got to add him. He's declaring clearly. So yeah, so it's coming together nicely. It'll be nice to kind of confirm, some of these guys declaring in a matter of weeks. So that's exciting.
Cool. So we are going to be talking about some wide receivers today. And Marcus, if I understand your process correctly, this is your first real dive into the draft class right now, correct?
Yeah. I would say when we started a little bit on Taped Online after the Raiders started to it started looking sucky and fans didn't want to do previews anymore. So I've been deep diving the draft a little bit that way. So I'm getting more familiar with the defensive guys too as well. So especially on the D line. So definitely been focusing on that and quarterbacks. But yeah, this is my first time deep diving into these wide receivers though, and looking at this wide receivers class.
Yeah, so I think you guys picked 4 wide receivers. It was Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Jordan Tyson, and who was the fourth?
Concepcion, KC Concepcion.
KC Concepcion. So, Marcus, which of those 4 wide receivers was your favorite?
Definitely, after watching it, definitely still Jordan Tyson. I think Tyson is going to be the guy that goes the highest out of all these guys, just because I think just as a natural, but I would say wide receiver at that size, just everything he could do. He there's a lot of things he could do, and just his flexibility, the way he runs routes, how he can beat press coverage too, and he's just like a all around wide receiver. Great hands. We'll deep dive into that a little bit more, but yeah, definitely Tyson was my favorite. But it was interesting just watching this class and seeing, where some of these guys are at and what I think they're going to be or where I think these guys would go. So that was pretty interesting too, to watch some of these guys.
So there's a tier of about 7 wide receivers that I'm curious, how the draft community stacks up the 7. So these are 4 of the guys that are in that group of 7. But Jake, I have a question about Jordan Tyson. Is he your wide receiver 1? I guess is the first question I should ask.
Yeah, he is at this point. I think it's going to be. I think the only thing that would be the detraction, in terms of him not being wide receiver 1, is the injury history, right, and missing a ton of games. That's, I think, kind of the biggest question mark, right, with him, because otherwise, to me, he is the 3-phase threat, the 3-level threat, can do pretty much anything you're asking of him. But yeah, that's really the only thing that would maybe scare me if I were in the NFL decision maker room, having to being the team that's going to probably select the first receiver. But I still think I would lean towards Tyson just because of I think multiple seasons of the skill set that I kind of highlighted of like 3-phase and 3-level. Like I think for some of the others, there may be some limitations here and there. Some of it is one of the guys we're going to talk about. I haven't seen as much of this of kind of this well-rounded skill set from him just yet, but clearly doing it at a top school. So that's I would still have Tyson at the top.
Good. You see, and then that was going to be my follow-up question: is Tyson's injury history? Because this is not the first season that he's missed time with injuries, correct?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why ASU maybe didn't get the national championship game last year was because he went out.
Yeah.
They have a way better chance against Texas. If especially the way Cam Scatterville is playing, man, they have a way better chance of that if they don't have him there. So
yeah. So, and Marcus, you're an Arizona State fan.
yes, I am. So yeah, he's a little biased there, but it's okay.
No, that's all right. Hey, we wear our teams on the podcast. There is no implication of neutrality here, but we can call each other out when it's appropriate, right?
Exactly.
So I guess my question would be, have we seen a wide receiver with Jordan Tyson's injury history? And I don't want to make it sound like Jordan Tyson has a checkered injury history.
Mm-hmm.
He was wide receiver 1 in the summer, even with knowing some things about injuries. The injuries have reared their head again this year. He's missed a couple of games. But have we seen a receiver that's had great film, great production, with a little bit of injury history, go in the top 10 before?
Jake, probably answer that question first because I'm trying to think of somebody. If you have somebody in your mind,
Top 10.
Well, and ultimately, we're talking about Tyson in the top 10, right? I mean, Tyson could go to the Giants in the top 10, right?
Yeah.
Like, now I got to go look at the draft order. He could go. So the Titans need a wide receiver. They're picking in the top 10. The Saints need a wide receiver. They're in the top 10. I'll let Marcus speak for the Raiders. The Commanders need a wide receiver. They're in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cardinals need a lot, and they're close to the top 10. So Jordan Tyson, top 10 to like any of those teams. Can we think of a wide receiver where, and again, like Tyson's injuries, he's just getting nicked, right? Like we're not talking about a knee. We're just talking about, like, Marcus, do you know what the injury is right now?
I know it's something to do with something with his legs. I mean, they don't give too much information in college football right now about injuries because they don't have to, like the NFL. But I know it's a leg injury for sure.
I had the impression it was a soft tissue leg injury, but I don't actually know what the injury is either. That's why I asked. But like, I think there would be some hesitation to take a player like Tyson in the top 10, not based upon film, but based upon health.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe a player with a cleaner medical sheet, like a Carnell Tate, may go higher.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Marcus.
Oh, my bad. That's gonna be an interesting take when you look at this when you compare him to Carnell Tate, because I think him and Tate are similar size wise. So they have similar size, and Tate's gonna be able to show his skills more. Let's keep it real. Tate's gonna have a run in the playoffs. He's gonna have a chance to really show off what he can do on a national stage for everybody. Because I feel like Ohio State's kind of been hidden a little bit this year. Like they're the best team in like college football, but since the Big Ten isn't like the most exciting conference this year, they're kind of just like hiding, right? And you know, a lot of people, you have to be like it's true Ohio State fandom watching them play, Purdue or something. I mean, I don't want to watch that game. I know they're gonna beat them down, so I'll watch his film later, type of thing. But there's gonna be a big factor here when he gets later on, where they're gonna be playing the best teams, where he's really gonna get to show off, and you might have a point there.
Yeah, and on the other hand, Jordan Tyson with the Arizona State offense is the guy. Carnell Tate isn't even the best wide receiver in his own team.
Right.
Right.
That's
I mean,
true.
there's something to be said there, right? Jake, I'm glad that made you smile.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, right? Next year, this time, we'll be like, all right, Jeremiah Smith, he probably doesn't need to play anymore, right? Like, he probably doesn't need to play next year, to be honest, right? He doesn't need to. We know what he is. So, yeah, there is some of that. Back to Tyson for a second. The injury was a hamstring injury. He did play last night against Colorado and did return from that. So he is still out there. Maybe to his detriment, maybe not. Still out there battling for Arizona State, when they're kind of out of the playoff picture, and you imagine you're probably not going to see him in the bowl game. But, I mean, to see him out there, and he's probably, I imagine, the type of player who's going to push to play against Arizona next week. Let's go, finish this the right way and beat down the in-state rival. So I'm sure that is at least getting attention of teams where it's like, yeah, he's not mailing it in. And, like, I know, there's been talk of that, of like some guys are just kind of mailing it in with injury, right? When all that discussion comes up and they get, kind of docked because of it. And then there's, but there's always criticism of like, why are you playing through injury, blah, blah, blah. I think it'll be good to see for NFL teams that like, oh yeah, he's just going out there and battling like next week and he wants to be out there. So that's good news. And yeah, with Tate, I think you could, maybe make the argument of like, yeah, he's facing more single coverage. They're not, clouding his side as much as they are for, Jeremiah Smith and second coming of, Andre Johnson probably. So that's fair, but I do think Tate has certainly leveled his game up this year. I think coming into this season, it was kind of like, without Ibuka, is this team, are they going to, feel comfortable having Tate on the outside, on the boundary all of the time? Are they going to rotate other guys in? Because obviously their room is extremely talented, but it was good to see Tate, like, really, I think, kind of take ownership of like, yeah, I need to be the other guy on the outside, and it has been impressive to see him play this year.
So, Marcus, where is Tate out of the 4 receivers we're covering today? Is Tate wide receiver 2 on that list for you, or is he low?
Yeah, I would go 2 with him for who we're covering today. Just because the size that he has and the movement skills. I do think there's some things to this game that he could probably get a little bit better at the next level. I don't think he's like the ultimate perfect wide receiver, but just his size, the way he he can get in and out of his breaks at that size, definitely his speed downfield. Even though like sometimes the Big Ten wide receivers, they could fool you a little bit with some of their speed because just who the competition they're going against. But yeah, he's a guy that I would say the size, speed, and just the flexibility, just the what's the word I'm looking for? Just the bend in his hips at that size, because it's hard for those 6'4", 6'3" guys to do that, and he doesn't have that problem. And I think his hands as well. He's great catching the football. I think there's a lot to like about Tate's game.
And Jake, you said Tyson was your wide receiver 1. Is Tate your wide receiver 2 out of the list today?
Yeah, definitely. When it comes, Marcus highlighted it really well. Like him being as big as he is, and watching him gear down on outbreakers, the through break transitions are ridiculous for somebody of that size. And I think you watch him do a really nice job decimating off coverage, knowing when to attack the blind spot, knowing when to add a little bit of pressure, right? Especially to win the post route, which he does extremely well. And I think you see from him kind of this like late stem acceleration and kind of a little bit of the jab steps, trying to throw in like just a little bit of deception once he's getting into that vertical stem. That's really, really impressive because he doesn't lose any speed when he does it either. And there's the one against Texas where he caught the ridiculous touchdown, which I'm sure we'll highlight even more as well. And then the Penn State game as well, where he is, it's just that simple jab step while he is, putting an immense amount of pressure into his vertical stem, like that just gets the defender to bite enough where it's like, okay, now I'm free. He bit on it. I'm gone because I'm not losing any speed when I'm doing that. And that's really tough to do. There are receivers who, when they throw that in, a lot of times are going to slow down a little bit and struggle a little bit more to reaccelerate, whereas Tate is still almost at full speed when he's doing it, which is really impressive to me. And I think as well, you see him, I think he's caught, maybe it's updated now. I think at least going into last week, he had caught 12 of 13 contested balls, which is just outrageous. You don't really see that, and it probably won't happen like that all the time. Yeah, I still see 12 of 13 this year. You probably won't see that every year. But obviously he's a bigger guy, right? He's taller at least at 6'2", 6'3", and to see him go up, the coordination, the concentration, all of that through the catch point, squaring up to it, jumping up and through, turning away to avoid contact, all of that is really good as well. And I think for me, the only thing that for Tate that like concerns me, because obviously he's super smooth, he's not as sharp, but he has kind of that, I think for him, the Chris Olave version of how efficient he is, where it looks smooth. It's not like, I don't need to be outrageously sharp. I can just, put that drive foot down when I'm rounding off stuff over the middle of the field where it doesn't feel like I'm drifting or just stuff like that. I think the one thing is, I think with him, obviously being a taller guy, maybe it's a little bit more of a struggle for him to gear down on the vertical plane. And you see that a little bit where defenders are getting invited back in because it's a little bit tougher for him. And yes, he's taller and bigger, and so that's not as easy. I would point to someone like Brian Thomas, though, who's also pretty tall and decently big at the position, who can do it. So, to reach that kind of that elite status on the vertical plane, and Pickens is another one who does that at a phenomenal level. You watch him gear down. So I think Tate can certainly get there, especially because of how well he's working with the in and out breakers. So I'm very impressed with him in pretty much every facet. And I think once he has like that vertical plane stuff down, because there's a lot of hitch routes in the league. You're not going to escape running those. Like teams have that baked in pretty much everywhere you go. So if he gets better there, like he is still somebody who, yeah, I have him as wide receiver 2 right now, but he's still somebody who can challenge, I think, Tyson at this point. And I'm sure NFL teams will probably think so. I still think Tyson, I think offers more after the catch than Tate does to this point. But still, he is extremely impressive. And there's probably a team out there who's thinking about him right now as, hey, can he be our wide receiver 1? Can he be somebody we build around?
Mm-hmm. I agree with that 100%.
So do you guys see both Tate and Tyson as a wide receiver 1 on whichever NFL team drafts them?
Yes, I do. I think just because I see dominance that has not been unlocked with Tate. Like I see that somebody that is a wide receiver 2 with a freak over there. Because, I was watching that film and I saw Jeremiah Smith make a play, and I was wondering if he is obsessed with Julio Jones like Dylan Raiola is with Patrick Mahomes. Because I was like, how do you guys run the same? Right? So he's playing with a dominant prospect over there, and it gets overshadowed. It reminds me a little bit of AJ Brown and DK Metcalf a little bit. But I know DK Metcalf is not. I'm not saying he's Jeremiah Smith at all, but AJ Brown kind of got lost in the DK Metcalf sauce, is what they say. So he kind of got lost in the big dude over there. AJ Brown, it's a little different because Smith is crazy, but just him getting lost a little bit. AJ Brown is kind of why he fell. But I think they're going to have a little different look on Tate overall. But I just believe that he has that ability, and he's kind of reminded me of AJ Brown a little bit. So that's why I went there as well. But he just has that unlocked dominance to him where he might be better in the NFL than he is in college right now.
So the reason I asked about wide receiver 1, one of the other players that we're going to talk about today is Kevin Concepcion, or KC Concepcion from Texas A&M. And he played running back before he transferred into Texas A&M. And then A&M has kind of unlocked him as an offensive weapon. So the same question for KC Concepcion. Is the team drafting him to be their wide receiver 1, or are they drafting him because their offense needs a complementary weapon? Marcus, what's your take on that?
With Concepcion, I think it's. I wouldn't say that he could be a full-on wide receiver one at first. I think he has to become like a guy who becomes a part of your offense. While he, what I would say, he probably has to get a little bit better just winning outside overall, in my opinion, or in just having that win ability all the time. Like I feel like there's sometimes where he's running routes, it just seems very simple, right? It's just like even when he like work in the slot, I think there's times where he could just be a little bit simple, and I feel like he could be controlled a little bit against certain teams, against certain defenses, where because he's not able to just win all the time, and it has to be kind of in a certain aspect of what he can do. And yeah, I think he is a fast player though. He has a lot of speed to him. I think I don't know how much of it is like the full 4.3 speed, but I know he has a lot of play speed to him, where he's able to kind of have a lot of bursts and things like that. And he's another guy who has great hands. I mean, I feel like all these guys have great hands. We're talking about today, but I think with him, it's going to take a little bit more time than these other guys because even in the slots at times I felt like that he was losing more than I wanted him to lose. But then he would run like a great route, the next route, and then like the next route would be is it okay, and then so he's got to get more consistent in what he wants to do as a route runner, just overall, before I could say that he can be a wide receiver, full-on wide receiver one right now. But I think he comes in the NFL. I mean, he could definitely be a piece that could work with the whole offense, and just somebody you could plug in there at a certain spot and certain times. But he's more like a move Z in my opinion. So we'll see what that looks like with him in the NFL. But I do like him though. We're not saying I don't like him. It's just wide receiver one. I'm not there yet with him all the way. Like right away. I'm not saying he can't get to year 3. I just think like Tate and Tyson, I think those guys get to show their wide receiver ones a lot earlier than he is.
Jake, how about you? How do you see Casey Concepcion as a member of an NFL wide receiver room?
Yeah, when I watch him, there's like one name that I think, at least in recent receiver classes, that jumps out immediately when I see him, and that is Zay Flowers, who I think when you think about Zay Flowers in the league right now, you think, yeah, I guess he's kind of the one in Baltimore, but not like the alpha target domination number one. Now, that's not to say that Zay Flowers cannot take over games. There are certainly games where he has shown that, like, I can take over, right? I can run any route you want me to. I'm a threat after the catch as well. But I do feel like that's where kind of Concepcion is going to live, and I think that's probably worth it in the 20s, right? I think that is where teams start to think about, like, all right, well, if he's an electric playmaker and we need one, and this O-line class, we need some help there, but we're it's shredded. We're not just gonna panic and take somebody like that, or we're not going to panic and take the corners after the corner run. Like, he feels like a perfect guy to slot in that area because I think his return will be worth it there, right? You obviously see the electricity that he plays with, right? Punt returner. He's excellent in that regard. And I think coming into this year, I wasn't that excited about him. I was like, it feels like this guy's still a little stiff in how he plays, and it just feels like, okay, now we're going to transition. Let's see how he's doing on the boundary. I don't know how this is going to work necessarily. He just doesn't feel sharp. He doesn't feel like he's got the attention to detail. When you watch him run routes, from last season, there's a lot of free releases, not a lot of, any contact, and he wasn't asked to threaten leverage a lot. So it's a lot of running the spot. And then you watch this year and you go, oh, wow, okay, Notre Dame game. Really impressed. And then throughout the SEC, I'm very surprised how many times he's putting guys on the ground with the in cuts, especially. Notre Dame, there was a great one where it's, square the release just to the outside, jab to the outside, stem back in, stack, and then just snap the route off, and the defender's on the ground. And Missouri, same thing, does kind of a similar route like that. Guy ends up on the ground. And I think you watch him hand fight, and it's a lot better. At the line of scrimmage, right? He's timing that up really nicely with the release move that he's working into, and so he gets into the stem a lot more effectively. because he's combating contact. And at the top of routes, he's doing a great job of initiating some contact as well. And hey, if you're going to, commit OPI, be my guest. Nobody calls it, so why would you not? So I see a lot of that as well. And then the way he can, get it through those cuts in record time, I think is impressive as well. You just see the ability to change gears and shift when he needs to, right? When it's all right, play with urgency in the stem now and gear down quickly. The through break transitions are really good. And then you watch him play above the rim, which is really impressive. I know everybody highlights the play against South Carolina where he was going up against the corner whose name escapes me that I know Brugler had really high on his board, where he just kind of waited for the ball and wasn't really, kind of had his head turned already and was just kind of waiting for it to come rather than the kind of showing your hand a little bit later in the route. But then you watch him, LSU game coming back to the ball in the end zone to attack. Notre Dame game, go up and get the football. Like he is playing above the rim like I remember Zay Flowers playing above the rim at times and playing with that coordination. And, obviously he's a dominant threat after the catch. You throw him a screen pass and you give him a lane and it's over. So I do think there is I was impressed a lot more than I expected to be for him just because of what I had, the preconceived takes I had on him coming into the season. But I do think he has gotten a lot better on the boundary. That's not to say that guys like Delane and guys with longer arms out there are probably going to do a better job controlling him. So he's going to have a better way of not just hand fighting, but like contact avoidance as well. And you can do that with your release work. If it's good enough, you can absolutely do that. Some of the best in the league can do it. So I think that's the next step for him as a receiver at the line of scrimmage if he wants to play in the boundary. But I think the steps that he's taken to show me that, okay, this is a guy who can be the Z. He can be, he can be off the line of scrimmage, and it'll give him some more time to prepare, right, for that eventual contact in the stem. But I do think you've seen a lot of impressive growth from him. I wouldn't put him necessarily in the Tyson Tate tiered just because it feels like those two, more Tate I think than Tyson even a little bit, has a better plan against contact, but Tyson's so sharp and sudden that he's good at avoiding contact altogether and how sharp the gear downs are and all of that. Like he's ready made for the boundary as is Tate. So I wouldn't put him up there. But I think you can get away with him kind of being sort of that 1B in your offense where it feels like, okay, he's not really running everything for us. He's not on the line of scrimmage all the time, but he's providing so much value because of it. Like you're looking at, again, I think Zay's a really good one for him. You look at what Green Bay does with Reed a lot when he is healthy. I think there's so many good examples of that, like a Lockett, like a Doug Baldwin. Like you can be as sharp as that and be really effective in your offense without, having that type of command that, the Chases and the Jeffersons and the A.J. Browns and the Neighbors and all these guys that in the Pukas and the JSNs that aren't going to command that heavy of a load. But I feel like Concepcion is still somebody who, again, if you take him in the 20s, if you're Denver, I love that because it gives them just another element. I feel like if somebody who's not, Courtland Sutton's got the big body, that's fine. You could, he can run a lot of routes and you can, give him a lot of those chances to make plays, if you're Bo Nix. And then Franklin's done a really nice job this year, I think, on the vertical plane and running a lot of the posts and corners, right, that you give him to make plays. And then you have Concepcion, who I think can run probably more routes than Franklin can, but also kind of dominate that underneath, short intermediate part of the field and still be part of deep shots where it feels like, okay, we can kind of move him to different spots in this offense and take advantage of matchups and stress space against the defense. So I feel like he is still somebody who probably deserves the round 1 consideration. I just would think for me it'd be more in the 20s than, be looking top 10, top 12, all of that.
I do like the KC Concepcion to the Denver round 1. Like that almost feels like Joe Alt to the Titans. For me, it has like a similar vibe, right? And if everybody doesn't know, Joe Alt plays for the Chargers, but during the mock draft season, I think Joe Alt to the Titans was almost an automatic that
Yeah,
draft
so
cycle.
maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe it's somebody
there was
else,
one
but
other. There was one other receiver that we had today, and that was Makai Lemon from USC. So, Marcus, my understanding is you hear a lot of USC chatter being a Raiders
Yeah, I
fan
do.
and podcaster. What do you think of Makai Lemon?
Oh man, this is an interesting film watch because I mean, I see like a lot of people like really like him, and I was just watching it, and I felt like I feel like he's a explosive player, right? He's really explosive. You just give him the ball in space, and he can just make guys miss and be really explosive. Definitely can break tackles. He's a tough player too. He's a great run blocker, which is I usually don't point that out wide receivers, but it's noticeable with him when I watch him on film. That dude is tough. He is a football player. He is tough. He can, like I said, and his contested catches are crazy. That dude might have the best hands at all these guys. Some of those contested catches he was making, I was like, I don't even know how you did that. I was watching the Iowa game where he dominated, and he was just mossing everybody there on that in that game. And from that perspective, I really like that. From that perspective, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Deebo Samuel. And when I was watching him, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking like, okay, this kind of feels like Deebo Samuel, but kind of the same reason that it kind of, I want to play back to it. It's just the route running overall for me. And it made me feel like I'm gonna have a hot take when I came on the show and I was watching it. It just felt like, I don't know if he could really win that much, like in against press coverage and things like that, when he actually has to go up against somebody that's really good. And you could kind of see it like yesterday. He had a contested catch, but he only had 4 catches for 34 yards. And I think he could be shut down a little bit and kind of taken out of the USC offense because he's a little bit more of a gadget guy than a pure like just route runner. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna beat people outside type of thing. And the contested catches, at the size that he plays at, it kind of, especially how he plays too, since he's more of a slot guy. I just wanted to see him open more. I wanted to see him just kind of be able to make people, what I would say, like at the top of his stem, give more in his like a rocker step or something like that. Like, give me more from your route running tree. Like, what I'm saying? Give me some more. More just, I don't know. It was something was missing. I couldn't really put my word on it, but it just felt like he was a little stiff there too. And like the transition from college to the NFL, I think it's going to be a little bit harder for him than some of these other guys that we're talking about today. I just feel like, and I see a lot of people high in him. Like I was looking at some numbers on PFF. PFF has him number 5. And I'm like, I maybe, and I want to watch more because like I feel like maybe there's something I'm missing here. But it just felt like that he is just more like, kind of like a little bit of a gadget guy. Like say they put him in the backfield. They do a lot of things like that, get him in space more than just he's just out there just winning and running great routes and things like that. So I don't know. I'm interested in your perspective, Jay, because I don't know how you feel about him, but I'm not gonna lie, I was a little disappointed when I watched it. So but
yeah, I think the one thing with when you watch some of these other guys and then watch Makai Lemon, you're going to probably be a little more disappointed because he's not as explosive as the other guys. And that's like maybe a little bit of a detractor where it's like, oh, he's not just blowing by guys like Tate at 6'3", or he's not this electric jitterbug that Concepcion, or, I know Branch was somebody we were maybe going to talk about this week, maybe next week, but like some of those guys where it just doesn't feel like, oh wow, he is like lighting things up because it makes him, almost uncoverable. So the thing that I think to me stands out for Makai Lemon are 2 things. It's 1, welcome to the new age at wide receiver. And 2, he might be one of the 3 most advanced people at the catch point I've ever seen as a college prospect, like ever, as I've gone through these guys for about 8-9 years now. I don't think there's anybody more advanced at knowing what all the solutions are and how to adjust, how to prepare for the catch point better than him. It really racked my brain. It was very hard to like go through the list and be like, all right, who's he better at the catch point than this? Because when you watch a lot of these guys, and again, I'm guilty of liking some of these guys who have done this at the catch point. Like some guys like leap at the catch point unnecessarily, and it's weird. And sometimes I get it where it's like, okay, they're leaping because they're trying to set themselves up and give themselves a little bit of extra acceleration post catch, and that's totally fine. Like I get that. But then you watch guys like Jerry Jeudy during the year this year, right? Where Cleveland, I don't know why he's jumping on like curl routes. Like he doesn't need to be. And what happens when he does? Eye level changes, hands aren't in the right spot, legs are contacting your arm, and then you're dropping the football. Lemon just never does that, like at all unnecessarily. When he's going up to get it, he has to go jump up and through to get it. When he is by the sideline, he is extremely aware of where the sideline is, where the end zone is, where his feet are, right, where the defender is, and just is, I think, tremendous at tracking the football and not clap attacking or anything like that. It's just very smooth, and he has just a great understanding of space and defenders, and just I think heightened awareness of where he is at all times on the field. So I do think there are times, Marcus, where you're kind of mentioning it, where it's like he seems to be fighting through contact a little more than you would like him to, and you'd love to see him have cleaner wins using the hands a little bit at the top. You know, there's like a fade route he scored against Michigan, right? But he got contacted heavily, and you go, okay, I would like to see just more. I just don't want to see him trying to just like rip through and run through like an edge rusher would, right? And so there is some of that where it feels like that. And I know one of the interceptions Maeva threw yesterday against Oregon, you see Lemon not really have too much of a plan other than running the stick route. Like it just felt like, okay, he's just going to run it. And so I get that. So when the coverage tightens for him, he maybe has less of an answer than you would like him to. But boy, when he's in the slot and they're playing, zone, the Iowa game, I mean, goodness sakes. I think Oregon saw that and they're like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to watch him get into blind spots and cook our safeties from, 8, 12 yards off, because he knows how to do that. And so fantastic at the catch point, right? You talk about catch point timing, right? Small adjustments, jump up and through, no drifting back when you jump up and through. You see guys do that down the sideline a lot sometimes, where it's like they are still running, and then when they leap, the momentum is carrying them, and that you're just kind of like catching the ball more at your chest and not high pointing at the right spot. I feel like Lemon does a great job of like, no, I'm high pointing this at the right spot. My timing is going to be good. My technique is going to be good. I'm going to attack it the right way. And then in the Iowa game as well, you see him, on that post route over the middle where he's just essentially being tackled as the ball arrives. Just the concentration, the strength that he can play with through contact at the catch point is unfreaking believable. And then, you watch him compete as a blocker too, and you go, okay, so what you're getting here is this kind of weird meshed version of Puka and Amon-Ra, where it just feels like, all right, he's just going to sit there. That's going to be his home. He's not I would like to see him threaten leverage a little bit more when the coverage is tighter, but everything's smooth. Everything is on time when he runs routes, all of that. Like it feels like he is just built to kind of enter this new age where it's okay. Yeah. The Rams are doing this with Puka. They're having him be in the slot. They're having him block. They're having him play in the boundary, right? He just does everything he needs to at the catch point. He's surviving contact. JSN, he had to kind of, they get him into, tighter alignments, right? They bring that formation tighter and they let him play the quote unquote boundary more often, right? And again, JSN's still winning by himself on the boundary plenty, right? When he's out wide, but you get him into those condensed spots where he can just kind of carve you up, understand where the coverage is, rotate to space away from coverage, find the space in the triangle of zone that he's facing. Like it feels like Lemon, even going back to last year, was really good at like identifying, okay, mid route coverage is rotating here. I'm getting my eyes to the safety. I need to know where he's going, where the coverage is. All right, that's going to dictate where I'm going. And you see that at a high level as well. St. Brown does the same thing. You just choice routes, find space against zone, just dominate on all the little things as a slot receiver and also block. And it feels like that's where Lemon's going to find his home. And I feel bad for teams that are going to have to play him because they're going to be super annoyed because like, oh, all these targets are getting funneled to this guy who's destroying our linebackers. You know, if we go up against him and press, teams are just going to see that. They're going to check to the run if they're a nickel, and he's going to help block. And we're going to be ticked all day defensively playing against this guy. And also, why does he catch everything? Can he drop one ball? Maybe that'd be kind of nice. So like defenses are going to be ticked because he's the new age of like, okay, I'm not this massively tall X receiver who's, you know, can kind of run most routes in the book and just be more physical. And it's like, yeah, maybe physical coverage is what's got to be his next steps. And I feel like JSN kind of had to work on that a little bit as well when he was, you know, working through late in year 1, early year 2, and it just kind of took off for him. I just feel like Lemon has so much, and then the toughness and the vision after the catch on top of it. I feel like Lemon has so much of like advanced stuff that makes him good that I feel like he'll hit. Now, obviously, you know, you look at the high-end receiver ones, right? I think if you're comparing him to St. Brown, I think St. Brown's got a little more juice at the receiver position, and that's where you maybe don't see him fully reach that. But an offense that's willing to move him around, right? Get him into matchups like USC did yesterday where they motion the tight end over, and now the linebacker is responsible for Lemon. Well, that's you're never winning that, unfortunately. That's tough on you, Oregon, there. But you get him into these great matchups as a Z, as that flanker, and a little bit in the slot as well, where he's probably going to predominantly live. And you go, yeah, we can have him run a bunch of routes from the slot, and his dominance at the catch point is going to make our young QB or veteran QB trust him plenty. And potentially you start feeding this guy some wide receiver 1 target share in the league, and he has no problem with it because he's so dang advanced when it comes to some of the little stuff in sort of that catch point phase.
So a comment followed by a question. So Mekhi Lemon, according to PFF, is 5'11", 195. Casey Concepcion, according to PFF, is 5'11", 190. Carnell Tate, 6'3", 195. And Jordan Tyson, 6'2", 200. So Mekhi Lemon is a little bit smaller than 2 of the guys that we discussed today, but that's just a statement. That wasn't a question. My question is, Marcus, Mekhi Lemon, what is the best version of him at the NFL? Like, what kind of offense does it need to be, or what kind of situation does it need to be?
Yeah, I think it'd be the situation where they get the ball in his hands, right, and they find ways to you know, maximize his skill set. I think that's what is going to be what he needs to do in the NFL at first, because I guess it's more about me watching his game against Purdue and him just not killing those guys. It kind of, I guess that was kind of like my first look. And then when I went to Iowa, it looked a whole lot different. But he's got to come in the NFL, and teams got to figure out ways to make sure that he is getting the ball in his hands quickly, right? You know, when he's getting those free releases, because, you know, it's not like he can't beat safeties or anything like that. So if you get him some free releases and he's getting up there on safeties and linebackers like Jake was talking about, yeah, he's gonna beat those guys all day. And that's what you saw what they did with him in Iowa. You saw a lot of them not trying to with Purdue. And the more inside where he's having that chance to kind of, get those one-on-ones with safety. So I think you just got to use him in the right spot, make sure he stays in the slot, and then let him get better to the point where he can win outside. I think JSN's a great point to point out that Jake was talking about, because that's what JSN is right now. I mean, he was a pure slot guy, right? And now he's everywhere, right? It doesn't matter where he's at. You light him up anywhere. And I think that's where you want to see Lemon get better, is that, can you put him outside right now? No. Is he a slot guy right away? Yes, I 100% agree with that. I think you could put him in the slot and make things happen there. And, especially with how in the NFL, I know a lot more teams are running what I would say 12 personnel these days. But even then, when they do that, they have some of these wide receivers condensed. So, he's still in the slot. Technically, he's not outside. And his run blocking is going to help. I mean, he's dominant there. It's kind of crazy. He just beats people up, and they use him there. Like sometimes, I think sometimes they line him up at fullback. I think at one point when I was watching it, he has that ability too. So he's somebody that like I see like Kyle Shanahan just loving. There's my guy. The way he blocks, I could just use him. I could maybe give him some carries. Just mess around with him a lot. But I do believe that early on he is that slot guy. And when he comes to the NFL, that's where I would do with him and let him learn the game. And then, then eventually, if he can move outside, then he can move outside.
And Jake, for Makai Lemon, what do you think is the best type of situation for him to go into?
Gosh, I mean, San Francisco would be nuts. I'm glad Marcus pointed that out. I'm glad he brought it because I probably wasn't even thinking there because I'm like, oh man, they have a lot of things they needed the draft, but like my goodness, I know they're probably moving on from Ayuk, and you're probably going to see, potentially Jennings move on as well. It seems based on what they've been saying so far, like Pearsall and Lemon. You still have Kittle, you still have Juszczyk, you still have McCaffrey. That's not nice for defenses to play against. They're not going to like that at all. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does feel like your deployment of him offensively is, yeah, I think there are times where you can give him some flanker looks where, you're getting into 3-by-1s where it feels like, okay, you could take advantage of teams probably playing a little more off. You could decimate them with the blind spot attacking, the leverage attacking, and play really efficient ball through the break point with the out and in breakers that he can do. And then, you get him close to the line of scrimmage. I am sure team has watched him run block against Iowa and went, oh, so the C-gap insert stuff we're doing offensively in the league. So, okay, cool. Circle him. He can do that. Make sure we have that noted for draft season, right? And that gives them just so many options. If Makai Lemon is somebody you feel like can create your, the kind of illusion, there is the illusion of complexity a little bit, but it is complex with how much teams are designing. It's an illusion of simplicity almost with what the Rams do a little bit, right? And what a lot of teams are doing with these guys who can block at receiver. And so Lemon kind of gives you that where it feels like, okay, well, he can play Z, he can play in the slot. We're going to be able to change up formation without changing personnel, and feels like we can live in 11.5 potentially with him. And that's going to make his skill set, I think, so valuable to some team where there's just no way he's not leaving round one. It's not happening. Especially how cheap, the receiver deals are relative to the, top of the line contracts. Like if you believe where I feel like his track developmentally is on this kind of St. Brown, JSN, give him a load in the slot, and you believe that he can reach where JSN has reached to this point this season. If you feel like, okay, year 3, he's going to get there. Like if you see that and you believe that, there is absolutely no chance you're letting him leave the top 20 if you're a team that needs it, right? I think San Francisco and Cleveland are 2 teams that should absolutely be looking at that. It would be outrageously annoying if the Rams took him with that Falcons pick. That would be unbelievably annoying for everybody else. If the Rams at 8 or 7 or wherever that Falcons pick ends up, they go, oh, cool, we're going to take that guy because we believe that this offense is we're just really going to mess with teams' heads. That would stink if you're not a Rams fan. If you're a Rams fan, you should love that. So, yeah, I think that's where you let him live early on, and I think it's going to pay dividends early on. And if you continue to see him, I think if something where Lemon's in the training room and he's working on kind of the quicks, and you see that 3-cone and that the shuttle pop up to where they were with like JSN's numbers, then you should be very scared if you did not draft him, because I fear that if he figures that out and he's working at the little things of battling through contact and all of that in the stem, it's hard to not imagine he won't do that just based on how advanced he is at the catch point. I just feel like he's like, all right, I'm gonna take care of this season. You're gonna see how good I am here, and then my rookie season, you're gonna see how good I am here. And he's just sort of like leveling up infinity stones of playing receiver, and that should probably scare everyone as well. So I don't think you have to put a ton on him as a rookie, especially if, some of these teams, right, you go to a San Francisco where Pearsall and Kittle are going to probably be drawing a lot of attention, or, Cleveland he might attract a little more attention early on, and it's probably going to be a rookie quarterback. It may not be the best, but I still feel like you still have, if Stefanski's still there designing and he feels like he's got a receiver where It's like, I can do a lot of different things with this receiver. That could be the avenue where he gets that heavy load of targets early, and it might not hurt him as much because they're going to trot out sacrificial X receiver Cedric Tillman, right? They're going to just trot him out there. Hey, you take all that stuff out there. Just attract attention because you're big. And Lemon does a lot of the other stuff, and Judy's still there as well, where Lemon can still kind of fit in, and Stefanski can find easy layups for him and insert rookie quarterback here. So it probably won't. There probably isn't a destination that's going to be extremely difficult for him per se, just because based on you go through the first round, you see kind of teams that have struggling offenses a little bit. Like you look at a Houston, they got their receiver room is full. Their O line is what's causing a lot of their problems right now, and Lemon's not going there, right? Like they're not going to continue down that path. They've got enough receivers there, so it doesn't feel like he's going to be thrust in a situation like that. Whereas maybe the one that you would be like, oh, a little bit deterred by is maybe Arizona, where it feels like they don't know what their solution at QB is right now. I don't know what they're thinking this offseason, if this is move Kyler time, and then what's our plan. That may be the kind of black hole of sorts, because McBride does all of that stuff over the middle, and he might kind of get stuck in a weird rotation of targets after that. But I do think he is somebody I'm just circling and be like, all right, late year 2, year 3, is he going to explode potentially?
Okay, so a similar but different question for Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson. As long as they're not drafted by the Bengals, do we think that they're going to be successful no matter where they go? So like even Malik Neighbors, we saw the genius of the player, even though he went to the Giants and they've had a dumpster fire at quarterback, right? Like we still know that he is him for Malik Neighbors. Do we see Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson the same way that we would have seen the Malik Neighbors, or is Malik Neighbors a tier above these guys?
I would say Neighbors. Just from a size perspective, I would probably take Tyson as a prospect over Neighbors, but it's hard for me to say because Neighbors is just so dominant on film. So I kind of want to take that back. I just want to go with Neighbors. So I'm gonna go Neighbors is probably just a better prospect because he was just so dominant on film, and I just I felt like there was a debate between him and Marvin Harrison Jr. going into at the end of that draft process, and so I would definitely take Neighbors over these two guys. Probably closer to Tyson, but I think. Drake London is my, always my comp for Tyson. So I kind of feel like that's where his arc is. And I just think Neighbors is just so dominant everywhere that it's kind of hard to, because I would say, Jordan Tyson does have good yak, but he doesn't have yak like Neighbors, right? Neighbors was better routes, better deep, it's all those things that Neighbors does better. So I would say that, I would definitely take Neighbors over those two guys, but I could see those guys having that type of impact in the NFL for their new teams, though.
Jake, how about you? Do you think the landing spot for Tyson or Tate is going to matter as to what type of pro they're going to be? Or like the type of, let me rephrase that. Do you think the type of offensive system that they go to is going to change their, let's say, draft stock, or do you think they can be wide receiver 1 wherever they go as long as it's not Cincinnati?
I think there are a few destinations where I would say that they're probably not going to be the one other than Cincinnati. The Giants is a guarantee. As somebody who trusted their gut and had Neighbors as receiver 1 in 24, and said, nah, nobody's like this guy. And has been driving that bus for a while of just like enjoying watching Malik Neighbors play football. I just don't think anyone's I don't think many guys are going to reach his level as long as he stays healthy, and hopefully he will going into next season. I feel like Giants, Cincinnati, I would sneakily throw Miami into that conversation. I don't know if we've seen the best of Jalen Waddle. I think we are starting to, and he is a force. So I don't think that anyone's going there from this class and kind of taking over that mantle. I think you could pretty much convince me anywhere else. Like sneakily Washington, if they go get one of those two, I think they probably overtake McLaurin since McLaurin's kind of, I think, almost 30 or has reached 30.
Yep.
Yeah.
Somewhere in that range. But I do think one of those two would take over. And I feel like that's a sneaky destination for one of them. Just because I think everybody right now that I see in mock drafts are like kind of almost putting Caleb Downs in Penn. And I just don't know why we do this. Like Caleb Downs is awesome, great player. Kyle Hamilton was a greater player, and he went 14th. Like I just don't think teams are going to be like knocking out the door to draft a safety top 10, no matter how good they are. Mm-hmm. So I feel like Washington's going to be one of those teams where it's like, yeah, we traded for Debo. This is working okay. Like it's been fine, but I don't know if we like. Maybe he sticks around long term. Like McLaurin's getting hurt now into what is this contract 3 for him? Like it just feels like they might go a different direction. And I feel like no matter who you pick, Tyson or Tate, I think probably takes over that mantle year one. So yeah, you look at, Marcus, I don't know if the Raiders are going to go that direction. You would have to tell me on that one if they were going to take one of the two. I feel like he's pretty comfortable saying they're going to take over the receiver 1 role, unless you count Bowers, which is probably, I mean, maybe that's fair that you count him as one of the best. I feel like if, Jets aren't good. Jets are going to be focused on one position before the other there regarding receiver. I feel like they take it. I feel like one of them might be able to take over for Harrison. Tyson might be able to take it from Harrison potentially in Arizona if he goes there.
I agree with that.
Which is kind of crazy to say, considering I feel like where everybody had like Marvin Harrison, in that 2023 season when he was playing. But yeah, it does feel like Baltimore, the place we talked about with the guy like Zay Flowers, with Concepcion, we were talking about that. Like that's probably a place if the Ravens, because the Ravens do this, right? They just have anybody fall into their lap that they like. No matter the draft, if they were to somehow miss the playoffs and they're in the teens and they like one of these guys, those two probably take over the mantle there. Yeah, I don't think there's like a system where it would affect either of them, right? But again, we kind of mentioned Arizona as like a place where targets might go to die a little bit because of McBride and the uncertainty of QB. But pretty much anywhere else you look at, I feel like you're going to enter a system where these guys are just, I think, too good. The suddenness, the sharpness that they play with at their size just kind of lets them run any route in the book. And I feel like, teams are going to be able to jump on that and go, okay, we don't have to kind of limit what they have to do as a rookie. We feel like we can, put the full plate on them and pretty much have them run anything just because that's who they've shown us that they are.
Okay. Did you guys see the list of receivers I put into the private chat? If you guys are okay, I can announce that for next week. That would be a slot. That would be a slot wide receiver show.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
so.
this.
So next week we're going to discuss these wide receivers. This is not meant to be a top tier wide receiver. This is meant to. I really want to hear Marcus's and Jake's opinion on these prospects. So Eric Rivers from Georgia Tech. Zachariah Branch from Georgia, Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, Deion Burks from Oklahoma, Antonio Williams from Clemson. So what we're getting there is a mix of guys that got a lot of hype and then got hurt. Are they day 2? Are they day 3 guys? And how much do they like specific aspects of those wide receivers' games? And the great thing about Draft Professors, we've covered those players before. If you go to the wide receiver channel, you can listen to several Draft Professors breaking down all of them. And this is just, Marcus is building a board. Jake is refining the board that he's had for, the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm anxious to hear their takes on those wide receivers. With that being said, Marcus, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody watching and let them know about Tape Don't Lie and all the other content that you know?
Yeah, so Tape Don't Lie is my main channel. So I do about almost 5 podcasts a week there now, almost. I'm thinking about it. Yeah. So we do a lot of shows. Definitely 4. I don't know if it's 5, but definitely 4. Definitely do a film breakdowns. We already started our draft work there as well. Also do some cool lives where we just have fun. We just do kind of get into the latest Raiders news and just talk and stuff like that. So definitely check that out, especially during draft time. We do a lot of mock drafts and stuff like that. So kind of all draft stuff all the time during that period. So get ready for that as well. And then I write at Silver Black Pride. And just that's basically it, man. I just all football all the time, man. But I'm at this podcast, I'm about like 6 days a week at this point. So I'm just grinding, man, like crazy.
Well, love to have you here. Thanks for joining us here. Jake, you want to let everybody know about all of the content that you make?
Yeah, at Jake NFL Draft on Twitter is the easiest place to kind of find all those links. Jake NFL Draft, no spaces on YouTube is the easiest way to find what I'm doing there. Receiver. This is my favorite position to discuss, no question about it. Really enjoy this. Was really thrilled when we were, when Marcus and I last week were like, oh, maybe we should do receivers. I'm like, oh yeah, all right, sure, yeah, twist my arm. But yeah, I do a lot of that stuff. You'll probably see the breakdowns of all those guys, kind of the top receiver prospects, over on that YouTube or on the Substack. Both links are there if you go to that Twitter account. So plenty of that. I do Packers stuff on the side as well, if that interests you as well. Just a lot of breakdowns there too. So draft season is certainly a place that I like to get to. Like most of the professors here, earlier than most folks, most of the fans that kind of wait till the Super Bowl's over, or the the playoffs start. Like, I feel like all of us are way out ahead of that, which is fun, and so that's what makes this exciting. You're going to get a lot of that. Plenty of mock drafts, but also a lot of player breakdowns throughout the cycle.
Oh, and you guys said like my favorite word, and that's mock drafts. So I'd like to take a minute and plug the Draft Professor Simulator. So I am the one that designed it. And if you register and do mock drafts on Draft Professor, here's what happens. So Draft Professor is an interactive simulator. That means if Marcus goes in and does a mock draft for the Raiders, and Jake goes in and does a mock draft for the Packers, when I come in and do a mock draft for Buffalo, there's a really good chance that the players Marcus picked for the Raiders and the players that Jake picked for the Packers are the players that those teams take if another team didn't try to take them earlier. So it's basically a crowdsourced mock draft algorithm. That's what Draft Professor is. So if you have a chance to stop by and do a mock draft, great. There are advanced mock drafts at Draft Professor that you can't find anywhere else, such as a first-round challenge, second-round challenge, and fanatic mode. So there will be podcasts to explain all that functionality. I'm not going to take the time and do that here. But we got Marcus with some internet connectivity. Anyway, so that is the Draft Professor Simulator. But I do want to say that for Marcus, Jake, myself, and the 110 people at the Draft Professor, thank you so much for tuning into this wide receiver show. We will see you again on a podcast tomorrow. We will see Marcus and Jake again next Sunday morning to break down more wide receivers. Thank you very much, everybody.